Much for coming here. And so this session is a treat. We have Mr. Amish Tripathi. Amish Tripathi is an author, former diplomat and a broadcaster. He has published his first book in 2010, and since then he has written 11 books, both fiction and non-fiction. His books have sold over 7 million copies and have been translated to 20 Indian and international languages. He's the fastest selling author in Indian publishing history. So let's have a round of applause for that. It's been said that his books are extremely well researched, deep thought, and are rooted right in India. That's why we are all here for. And a very liberal, progressive outlook. Forbes India has regularly ranked Amishji amongst the top 100 influential celebrities in India. He's got too many awards, so I'm not going to list you those. But as a broadcaster, he has hosted Warner Brothers, Discovery successful and award-winning Legends of Ramayana with Amish, Legends of Shiva with Amish and Journey of India. He has produced and hosted highly acclaimed and blockbuster documentary called Ram Janmbhoomi, Return of Splendid Sun on NTV and Geo Cinemas. In his diplomatic role, Amish has worked as a cultural and education minister at the Indian High Commission to the UK and a director at the Nehru Centre in London from 2019 to 2023. Amish Tripathi is an alumnus of prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and he has received the Eminent Alumnus Award from IIM Calcutta in 2017, of course. He worked for 14 years in senior roles in financial services industry before becoming a full-time writer. So welcome to the IAC LitFest, sir. You'll wait. We are very, very fortunate to have Professor Makarand Paranjape here to moderate this. First of all, most importantly, he is one of the lead curator for the whole festival. So we are really, really grateful to him for that. He is currently the Director of Education, Access Health Care Physician in Springfield, Florida. He is really known for 25 years spending time in JNU in Delhi. And he's just been an incredible person and a resource for Indo-American Arts Council. And so we are very, very fortunate to have him moderate this particular session. So Professor Paranjape, please.
A very quick quiz. You know his books have sold 7 million copies. Is there anyone here who hasn't read him as yet? Okay, not bad.
Shame on you guys. But the books are available.
That's what I was going to say. The books are available outside. You can rectify that. And let me ask you another thing very quickly. Is there anyone here who hasn't been to one of our events before? IAAC events? Oh, wonderful. So welcome to all of you, especially, including you. So I wanted to say just a couple of things about IAAC. It is a festival, a LitFest with a difference. And it's the community initiative to profile and showcase the best of India. What is most authentic in the arts. Film, literature, dance, poetry, and so on. So now...
And if the best isn't available, they invite me.
No, he is the best. I'm going to talk about that a bit. But I'm not going to say too much about the book immediately. I want to first start by asking you, Amish. We heard that you were in the financial services, you were very successful. In 2010, you wrote your first book. Now you're 12 books old. I've done 55 books, and you know, none of you knows me. So he's obviously doing something right, extraordinarily right. So my first question is, or rather, you know, I want you to tell us about your journey, you know. And just for those of you, especially who haven't read any of his books, so he started with this Shiva trilogy. It was all about Shiva. the Mortals of Mehula and so on and so forth. Then there was the Ramachandra series.
Yeah.
And now, I want to call it the Ghazni series, though he calls it the Indic lore, because in this series, in I think 21, he wrote this book on
Legends of
Suhail Dev, which I
also
read,
linked to this.
which is also linked to the Ghazni invasion. But we'll come to that later. And the present book, the Chola Tigers, is very much about avenging what happened in Somnath. But we'll come to that. So please tell us, Amish, to begin with, if you don't mind, your journey. Like, how did you transit from a successful...
It seems like I can't make up my mind and so many things. How many of you grew up in India, studied in India? Oh, okay, most of you. So I'm 51, and in the India that I was growing up in, I got into college pre-1991. So it's a different India for the young amongst you. You can be a cephalogist, you can be a graphic designer, you can be so many things that make money. In the India that I was growing up in, with our economy destroyed by socialism, very few opportunities there. Especially if you come from a middle class, lower middle class family. So either you did engineering, medicine, MBA, CA, or you stopped basically. So I did an MBA from Calcutta, very traditional. I was good in academics, good in sports as well. And joined financial services. It was the pragmatic, smart thing to do. My parents made a lot of sacrifices for the four of us siblings. My parents were educated in the Hindi medium. So we were the first generation to go to an English medium school. And my mother never hid the sacrifices that they made, which meant that the four of us had this fire in the belly. The only way to put it, we had to earn the sacrifices that our parents made. So we were very pragmatic, practical, all four of us siblings. Banking is very... How many bankers here? Yeah, it's among the most boring jobs in the world. The only thing more boring than banking is life insurance. My last job was in life insurance. As Woody Allen said, there are things worse than death. I will spend an evening with a life insurance guy. So they bore the hell out of you, but they pay you well. So it was very pragmatic, very practical.
No, tell us about
My
literary journey. Yeah.
My writing, basically, just an idea occurred to me. I started writing around 2004, 2005 while I was still at my job. It took me some 3-4 years to write the first book, in Models of Melua. It was rejected by every publisher it was sent to. I self-published my first book. And it took off in the first week itself. I didn't know if it was a fluke. So I waited. I wrote my second book as well. That got published. That also did well. My royalty check became more than my salary. I resigned from my job only at that time. Very Indian, very boring, very pragmatic.
Yeah, but it's an extraordinary brand you've built up. And I just wanted us to talk a little bit about that. Not just about the marketing, at which you're a master, because I've attended some of his... we've known each other now for over 10, 12 years, I think. He had one of his book launch in Mumbai. He had drummers coming in. I mean, it's extraordinary. But the point I'm making
Books should be fun.
It should be
wine
fun.
and cheese and boring.
I completely agree. But my question to you is, do you plan out several books in advance? Because there is, in any franchise, whether we talk about Star Wars or whatever, prequel, sequel, there's an unfolding of the narrative, and you don't give out everything immediately, right?
So the way it works for me is, I think, and my wife will hopefully bear me out on that. My wife, my boss, Shivani. Right at the So I think I'm very well planned in everything that I do. Down to the currency notes in my wallet are always organized denomination-wise, facing right side up, and that well planned. In my morning, I look at my schedule, I have a to-do list. I'm very disciplined. I'm well planned. The only place where I'm not planned at all is my writing. I don't make any plan. I don't make character sketches. I don't make story flows. I have written, the Shiva trilogy is actually just one very long book divided into 3 for convenience. There are clues in the first book which are tied up in the last book. The Ramchandra series, which is a different series, is actually a 1500-year prequel to the events of the Shiva trilogy. The last book of the Ramchandra series, War of Lanka, which released just 3 years ago, tied up clues that were opened up in Immortals of Melua, which released in 2010. Okay?
No, that's why I'm saying.
I did not plan any of this. If someone believes I could have planned something like this, then I have a bridge to sell him somewhere. In this, I have no idea how it works.
But you mentioned Suhail Dev in the book as well.
Yes, in Chola Tigers and vice versa.
Yes.
And I have no idea how it works. It's completely instinct.
I see.
And I know it sounds strange. I genuinely believe it's the blessings of Lord Shiva. It's like it just comes, and my job is not to question, just follow what comes to me. And somehow it all just ties up together. So the only part of my life, outside of my love, of course, there she's in control. I surrendered control completely. And my books, I don't have any control. Everything else I'm very well planned.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because actually you can't control creativity as we understand it. It's very complex. It's amazing. And now we come to the book itself. I'll just say a couple of words. You want to say something?
I just want to say, he just said like just 3 years back. It is long back 3 years. We're waiting for the next book of.
There you go.
It is not just 3 years back.
Seed.
Two books I released after that. Look, faster than a year and a half is a little different.
I know, but we just said like just 3 years back. It's not. It's like long back, because I'm literally waiting for the next book.
Waiting. That's amazing. So let me. How many of you have not read the Chola Tigers? Okay, quite a lot. So I'm going to.
Yeah, to be fair, it hasn't been released in the US yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been released.
Kindle is out. Yeah.
But you can.
It's released in India.
It's outside.
It's available.
I got the Kindle book as well as the physical copy. But so very briefly, what happens is that a bunch of Indians get together and want to avenge the destruction of Somnath by Muhammad Ghazni. And you know that Muhammad Ghazni invaded India 17 times. And his last raid was on Somnath. So this is like your Avengers series, and they make a team. And the team is anchored in the south by Rajendra Chola and his generals. There's a general called Narasimha. And all the names are resonant and symbolic. Narasimha is the man-lion, as you know, Vishnu Avatar. And it's a motley crew, but there are kings from contending dynasties, from the Chalukyas, from the from the Bhoja, the Paramar Bhoja is also a part of it. And then there are some unusual people. There are Gujarati merchants, there's a Bengali merchant, Muslims, Hindus, males, females. It's like a modern Avenger story mapped onto a time in the past. So now I wanted to ask you, in the Ramachandra series as well as the Mahadev, the Shiva trilogy, you are actually exploiting, if I may use the word in a positive sense, but you might say unveiling or unpacking things that are not fully said. Like we know that Sita was discovered in a furrow, that's why she's called Sita, but nobody knows who her biological parents were. So there is actually a Sitayan, if you want to use that, where Ravan is her father. It's not well known, but it's there in the tradition. And in a way, Amish picks up on that, So, but when it comes to history,
no, I don't say Ravan is her father.
No,
he's not in my version.
I'm just
saying,
but you can do a story, a modern story, which is a rational explanation for why he doesn't, within quotes, rape her, rather than his head falling into 100 pieces or whatever the curse. So now my point is, with history also, you can do something similar. For example, if you look at how Muhammad of Ghazni died, they'll say he died of malaria or tuberculosis induced by malaria. But in this book, it's very interesting. I'm not going to be a spoiler and give away the end. Whoever kills him or however he dies, we leave that to you to discover. But they always put out a narrative at the end, You want to cloak it. For example, Mao, I don't know if you know, a lot of people think and believe, including his personal physician, that he had syphilis. I don't know if you know that. Did you know that? Yeah. Anyhow, you read about it, his personal physician. So I'm saying you can write even in history. So would you say, how do you use what we know and don't know sometimes to write a history which seems totally contrafactual, not to speak of counterintuitive?
So Look, the Chola Tigers and the prequel to this in the Indian Chronicles, Legend of Suheldev, is historical fiction. Historical fiction, in a way, actually looks at the facts of history. Usually, you won't have enough facts to write a full novel. You fill in imagination within that. Right? So, Mughal-e-Azam was historical fiction. The facts were there, of course. King Akbar and Emperor Akbar did exist. Was a great
But
emperor.
we don't know if Anarkali exists.
Anarkali did not exist. That's
We
not a
don't know.
historical fact.
We don't know.
Jahangir's character was changed in Mughal-e-Azam because we see Jahangir Salim as as a romantic conquering hero. Actually, he was a drugged out moron. His wife was the capable one.
Noor Jahan.
Yeah, Noor Jahan. Noor Jahan and her family actually ran the empire. So the dispute between Akbar and Jahangir was not the son rebelling against the father for love. Right? The dispute was essentially a very capable father stuck with an idiotic son. It was that traditional, and he's just, kya karu iska? You know? That was actually the dispute. No, seriously. And his wife Noor Jahan was actually a very capable woman. But that won't have made for a good historical fiction movie. Right? So Mughal-e-Azam essentially changed things a bit. In my case, did Mahmud Ghazni exist? Yes. Can there be some disputes about his death? Yes. Was Emperor Rajain Chola the most powerful man on earth 1,000 years ago? Yes. Was he a very devout Shiv Bhakt? Yes.
Yes.
Did Mahmud Ghazni destroy Somnath Ji? Yes, which was one of Lord Shiva's greatest temples, and some say perhaps the first of the Jyotirlingas. So now these are the facts of the case. What is the fiction that can be put around it to give a message for today? For me, any book which has no core message serves no purpose. You know, then you can just make a movie, show a boy and a girl running around a tree, right?
That serves an important purpose.
But I think you should entertain, but there has to be some message. At least that's the Indian tradition. And it doesn't matter if the readers agree with it or not, but it should provoke them to think, right? So what is the message I want to give with historical fiction? I think a few things. One, I think something that was done very mischievously in our history books. It was done by the British Raj, and the British had their own reasons, one can understand it. The regrettable part is we carried on with this post 1947, for which there is no excuse. Those of you who have grown up in India, you will notice British colonial rule is not called the Christian invasion, but the Turkic colonial rule is called the Islamic invasion. Have you guys noticed this? Very mischievous framing. Okay. The British obviously did it to convert what was actually an Indian foreigner fight into a Hindu-Muslim fight. Right? And regrettably, this carried on post 1947, with many Indians actually not being clear that they were foreigners. Right? Alauddin Khilji did not look like Ranveer Singh. Akbar did not look like Hrithik Roshan. They were actually Central Asians.
Yes.
They did not speak Urdu. Urdu is our language. It's an Indian language. Despite what you may see in Bollywood movies, they would have spoken Turkic or Persian. They were foreigners.
Persian.
Just like the British were foreigners. Right? They call themselves foreigners. You have to see that text. So that's the first thing. We must be clear on that. Don't spread internal divisions today for what was essentially a foreign invasion of India. That's the first point that I want to clarify. Second thing in my mind, one of the reasons why India lost so often was a lack of internal unity. Any Punjabis here? Yeah, actually, or most Indians would know this in any case. Jallianwala Bagh. Yeah. Who was the person who gave the order to fire? Dyer. Yeah, everyone knows this. Who were the people doing the actual firing?
Gurkhas.
Oh, Indians. And not just them, other regiments too, but Indians. None of them told their foreigner British boss, I'm not going to fire on my fellow defenseless Indians. Gora Sahib gave an order, they just fired. Right? And this has happened repeatedly. We lost Battle of Plassey, internal divisions. We lost the third Battle of Panipat, internal divisions. Any Maharashtrians here? Yeah? Have you heard of Kanoji Angre?
Yes.
Yeah? Among the greatest admirals,
Admiral Kanoji Andre.
Admiral Kanoji Angre, his navy was more powerful than the Portuguese navy at that time. How did his navy get destroyed? He was fighting Europeans on one end, on the other end, his own fellow Marathas. That's how the navy got destroyed. That's how the Europeans conquered us. So that's my second message in this, internal unity. We'll have Indians, by nature, we are argumentative people. You put 10 Indians in a room, forget about 11 opinions, you'll get 21 opinions. Because each Indian will have 2 opinions. Okay, it's the way we are. Okay, but never take the side of a... Don't be a traitor. Net.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
you don't take the side of a foreigner against a fellow Indian. Third point.
Shatrubodh you mentioned.
Third point that I want to put across in this thing, and this may not apply as much to Indian, if you weren't brought up out here, but those who are in India, a narrative has been sold to us that Indians were essentially cowards who kept losing for 1,000 years, that we are descendants of cowardly, weak people. Again, the British Raj had a reason to put this, because if we believe that essentially we are a race of losers, we'll keep our head down and remain slaves, right? My interpretation, same set of facts, is the exact opposite, which is what I put in this book. Same set of facts. Because the invaders who came to India, okay, the Arabs, Persians, Turks, and then the British, Portuguese, Dutch, French, they went to practically every other corner of the world. In most of those corners of the world, the native cultures are museum pieces. They are finished. Is the Native American culture alive in the US? No, right? Zoroastrian Persia, finished. Celtic, UK, most of them, they are finished. India, 1,000 years of invasions, we are still standing, right? So, to me, the story of the last 1,000 years is not a story of repeated defeats. It's a story of the greatest resistance in human history. No bunch of indigenous people have fought so hard for so long to keep our culture alive. This is something that can only be said in Hindi. किसी ने हमारी संस्कृति हमें खैरात में नहीं दी है, हमारे पूर्वजों ने लड़के इसे बचाया है. And we should have that. Our back should be straight, our head should be high. We are descendants of the toughest buggers around. We must have that strength. But let's learn the lesson from our ancestors. No internal divisions. Nothing irritates me more than someone saying Aurangzeb did something wrong. Completely true. You're fighting a Muslim today, you're an idiot. You're repeating the same mistakes right now. Churchill was a monster, of course true. What does it have to do with a Christian today? There were some caste fights, 200 years back, 500 years back, completely true. We must celebrate today, but no point fighting today. Okay,
but can I just come back, Amish, for a moment to 2 points. One is that how historical fiction works. But is it fiction or is it fantasy? For example, and there's a joke here because you have Narasimhan, one of the characters. So he's quoting a poem, Ode to Horatio, by Thomas Babington Macaulay. So
how can man die better? I love those lines. How can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods?
And
who cares if Macaulay wrote it? And I do credit Macaulay.
800 years later, someone wrote.
But I do credit Macaulay.
You just call him Babington. He just calls him Babington. And what's interesting, his interlocutor on the other side, a Muslim gentleman who's collaborating with Narasimhan, he says, yes, I know who wrote it. I'm well read too. So you see, there is a way that through a self-conscious manipulation of what happened, the reader is also being disabused of any notion that this really happened, in any sense of the word. But now I want to come to something you've touched on, but I want to take it on sort of head on, because one of the remarkable things about this book, other than the fact that it's very well plotted, of course it's got lots of stereotypes, etc. I mean, look, I'm a professor. What else do you expect from me? I will be critical. But one of the extraordinary things, at least to me, is that for the first time you're getting an account of that period from the perspective of those who suffered, the victims. Because just imagine, if you had been subject to one of those raids, or if you had been witness to a sacred object or a monument being destroyed, pillaged, it would be so traumatic. So there is a century, 10 centuries, a millennium of trauma, which we haven't dealt with at all. So this book, and also doesn't do it in a divisive way, because he shows a lot of the Muslims also who are a part of this story, who are victims, who were, so he talks about the vandalism, the destruction, the invasions, the conquest, the rape, the loot, and even the theological justifications with footnotes. So it's very compelling in that sense. But he doesn't make it in a divisive way. So it's a trauma narrative without a simple blame game, a reverse revenge history type of thing. So how did you come up with this way of putting all the different victims, including Shias and other kinds of collaborators? How did you come up with this method of truth and reconciliation, if I may use that phrase?
You know, this lady here, she's an Indian, and she's graduating in psychology. She came and met me at lunch.
Oh.
And
he's always working. It's a working lunch.
No, and she has good reading habits. She likes my books. And she's a psychology graduate, and she was telling me what would be our approach to psychology. And among the things that strikes me is modern psychology has spoken of. I'm not so sure Freudian thinking has been good for the West's mental health, but modern psychology says that if you're a child and you've gone through abuse and you've gone through trauma, it's relatively more common than it should be. When you become an adult, usually there are two ways that people react to it. One is denial. Nothing happened to me, just kind of suppress it, forget about it. And the second is unfocused hatred. Hate everyone, not the person who abused you. And you don't need to be a psychologist to know that actually both paths are not in your interest, right? And you find this unfocused hatred and denialism in many victim cultures. The Turks who invaded us invaded the Arab world as well. The high point of Arab culture, the Abbasid Caliphate, and you guys must study the Abbasid Caliphate.
Harun al-Rashid.
Yeah, it was really liberal, progressive, scientific, and it was destroyed by these very same invaders who invaded India as well. And you find in the Arab lands, I've had a lot of Arab friends, made many in UK, there's a lot of unfocused hatred because of the suffering, first from the Turks, then the European colonialism, which is obviously not helping their culture. In India, it's been the other extreme, denialism. No, nothing happened to us. We were playing the sitar and singing ghazals, which is also not true. Right? There was, as Will Durant, an American historian, had said, the Turkic invasion of India was probably the bloodiest in human history, the bloodiest invasion in human history. We need to make our peace with it. And among the things in the Indian way, which is very different from Freudian, is that don't deny what happened. Unfocused hatred is, as Gautam Buddha said, holding on to a burning coal, waiting for the guy who you hate to come so that you can throw it at him. In the meantime, you're getting hurt, right? But they also say, speak the truth. Satyam bruvat priyam bruvat. Speak the truth, but speak it with love.
Incidentally, right? That is in Manu, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, so, Rakeshji, you're saying something?
Yeah, I just want to make a point, because a lot of the discussion has been around what is the truth here. See, we should ask the writer, your protagonist may not be true, but was there a real life that would have inspired that hero? And in the case of Muhammad al-Ghazni, the great story is that there was a real life. Muhammad al-Ghazni attacked Kashmir twice, 1050, 1021, and there were two massive battles at Loharkat Fort. That fortress still stands. King Sandrama beat the shit out of it. And historians record that Muhammad al-Ghazni had huge losses and had to retreat. So, sir, I salute
aware of
you
that.
for
And I
creating that
reference that.
character because we have had real life heroes like that.
I'm aware of this actually. It's not been covered in our textbooks, and I reference that. And I reference lower court also in this. And the point is, when you say the truth, then what is the purpose of the truth? Right? Is the purpose of the truth to address the facts that happened, but bring in some peace today? Which is how we used to use stories. Don't suppress what happened. Don't create unfocused hatred today as well. Right? Bring out the truth of what happened, but can you present it in a way that the interpretation that comes out is positive, right? At the end of it all. That's what I attempt to do.
No, that's
Satya
amazing
Kumar,
in a way. Exactly, because we...
And like I said, I'm not writing a non-fiction history book.
Right,
I'm writing
right.
a story.
No, absolutely. In fact, we have a way of principle forgetting, because there's no Indian account of Mahmud of Ghazni. All that we know is from, accounts of historians who accompanied him, including the great Al-Barani who wrote India, that book India. And similarly with Alexander, his invasion of India is not recorded in Indian sources. But one second, let me just come to a question.
There are many texts which haven't been translated. So for all you know, they have been recorded.
But we don't know.
Yeah.
But you see, trauma, how do you deal with it? Sometimes there's principle forgetting, as you said, so that you don't want it to lead to hatred. But there's also principle remembering. And I think Amish's book is breaking with that stereotype of the Hindus who always forget, who are doing denialism, negationism. But it's principle remembering, but not harnessed to hatred, as you said. Which brings me to, I'm going to ask you probably just one more question and then throw it over. Yeah. And this is about, if you read your Anandamat, there is a wonderful, I'm sure all the Bengalis have read the great book by Bankim. And we are in the shadow, in a way, of Anandamat in many ways, Vande Mataram included. But if you read Anandamat, what happens in the end is this mysterious Mahatma shows up. And then he tells the main characters and the Mahendra and others and the leader of the rebellion that look, the time is not yet right. These people are going to rule you for another 100 years. I mean, the British are going to rule you, and then you'll rise again. So Amish does something similar, probably deliberately, where he has a Shankaracharya come at the end of the book and tell people
1,000-year prophecy.
1,000-year prophecy. So it took By the way, for Rakeshji, I want to say one thing, that in this book, Muhammad, with your permission, Muhammad Ghazni's wife, Kausari Jahan, is not only a Kashmiri, but she's a Mattu. I mean, we have Dr. Mattu.
I'm giving some spoilers now. Let them read the book.
That's the only
But
one.
having said
That was the biggest dhamaka for me.
Having said that, one thing which I do like, that's why it's a pleasure being interviewed by a scholar. Yes, actually it was inspired by Anand.
There you go. So my question is this, we are at a very interesting juncture of history. And as you say, India has taken almost 1,000 years from those dreadful times of continuous invasion and conquest, the Khyber Pass. Actually, it's the pass of death, because Hindu Kush means the Hindu killer mountain. That's actually the literal meaning, if you know what Kush means in Persian, means killer. And then the waves of invasions and British colonialism, and the book says, 1,000 years later, you're going to have a glorious epoch. India will rise again. So, I mean, are we there? Are we about to rise like a phoenix or whatever?
Somnath temple was destroyed in 1025, early 1026, 1,000 years.
But it was rebuilt by Sardar Patel.
Okay, the point I'm trying. Okay,
Yeah.
the point. What is certainly worth thinking about. This is something I genuinely believe, and this is particularly true for the youngsters. Okay, till the 1980s, India was so poor. Okay, the 1980s was the lowest point in economic history ever for India relative to the rest of the world. 3 American car companies made more money than all of India. Okay, our GDP was less than that. We were that poor, right? From 1991, our turnaround began. Just a little over 30 years later, We're the fourth largest economy on earth. We just defeated our not defeated, we crossed our former colonial master, the UK. All of you should applaud it. We're a bigger economy than just 30 years now. Okay. At the pace we are growing, we'll be number 3 in another 2-3 years maximum. What a great time to be an Indian. I literally put my money where my mouth is. Every single penny that I have is invested in India. It is the story for the next generation. And I say this to all Indian Americans as well: have a foot in India, man. Okay, it will be in your selfish interest as well. It will help you here too. What a time to be an Indian. The key thing is the conversations we should have is what kind of country we will be now. That is also a conversation we should have. We should not be like those who oppressed us. We should be better. We should be worthy of our ancestors. That's all.
Wonderful. On that note, thank you so much, Amish. I think you're going to seat. Please sit down. And I will also probably sit down. I think I'll pass the mic. Is there an extra mic for the audience? You have one? Okay. You can take mine. But please briefly introduce yourself because we are recording this. So kindly, please briefly introduce yourself, and I also want a mic for myself. I just wanted to say one thing, being an argumentative Indian, that NVIDIA's market cap is more than India's GDP. But anyhow, it's all right. That's the way the world is. Anyhow.
Okay.
So please wait for me to point to the speaker. The gentleman at the back will ask that question at the back. So please introduce yourself briefly.
Hi, pleasure being here, Amish. My wife and I are here. We've read your books. We love them. We both grew up in India and recently moved to the US. Love what you're doing, your take on history and all that. And I just wanted to pick up on the point you mentioned about denialism and denial of our history. And we both from Punjab, and I wanted to say that it's not just what happened 1,000 years earlier. It's even what happened in 1947 during the partition. Our grandparents came from what is now Pakistan.
Sorry, sir, just ask the question, please.
Yeah.
I beg of you, because
Sure.
there are so many others. Just ask your question. I request all of you.
This is a sentence.
Yeah, so I was just saying that there is a need to also document that because that generation is just passing away without those histories being recorded. And I wanted to ask you both if you are aware of anybody who's doing that, or that is something we are missing that opportunity to do that now.
I agree with you. There's a partition museum that has come up in Amritsar, but a lot of I had a Sindhi friend, and I know the couple well, and their grandfather actually told me some horrific things that they suffered on the partition here, and the grandfather didn't tell them anything till they were around 35-40, and I think in the mind, the way all the elders of all of you, the way they were thinking, we will absorb the trauma, we will not pass it on to you so that you can start on a clean slate. They were probably thinking like that, which is not an unwise thing. But having said that, if you don't learn from the trauma, you don't prevent future tragedies as well. So how do we record it? I couldn't agree more with you. How do we record it in a way that is balance, that we learn our lessons, but don't forget. There's that fine line. I couldn't agree more with you. More of us, especially those communities that have suffered the most, which is Punjabis, Sindhis and Bengalis, they suffered the most. History should be recorded. I couldn't agree more with you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I saw that hand here. Then one here.
Just want to, as far as, I don't know about documenting it, but there's actually a motion picture that's made by Amir Khan. He's still working on it. It's called Lahore, 1947, and it's based on a play. Yes. And I don't know if it's going to be a fair rendition. I know but I think it looks like anybody who sees that film, it'll be like Vietnam War or anything like that. And I think, I mean, in terms of the impact, I think it would have impact. I mean, others may disagree because films don't really have the effect of historical documentation.
Okay. And it'll be good if there's things on both sides.
Please say your name also when you ask the question, because we're recording it.
My name is Vivek Gumaste. I had a question. I know the Hindu civilization or the Indian civilization is in decline. You may not agree with it because we see 1.4 billion people. But if you look at where the influence of the Hindu civilization was about a century ago, we had partly less than 50% of that. And do you think this decline is going to be arrested, or you think the decline is going to be continue like in another 1,000 years, they may be reduced to a very small area in India itself?
Interesting question. Was the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain influence far greater 1,000 years ago? Undoubtedly. Not just the Indian subcontinent and including up to Afghanistan, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, China, Japan,
Cambodia, Vietnam.
all of them. To the west, the Roman soldiers practiced a religion called Mithraism. Many of them. Mitra is actually a Vedic god. Mitra, the friend in Sanskrit, right, is actually a Vedic god. So yes, it extended to vast degrees, right? As did the Pharaonic culture, which was a contemporary of ours, as did the Mesopotamian culture, as did the Zoroastrian culture, which was also contemporary of ours, as did Greco-Roman. Greco-Roman was kind of absorbed into Western European culture, but a lot of it was also removed, as we know. So it's a question of glass half full, glass half empty. Our contemporaries are dead and museum pieces. We're still here, much reduced, but we're still here. Where we'll be 1,000 years later, I don't know, it's up to us. Predictions, in my mind, predictions are a mug's game, especially if you're predicting about the future, because no one knows. But it's up to us. And I think one of the strengths of the Hindu way of life is we have an ideal mix of carrying the best of the old but adding in the best of the new as well. We don't have to remain stuck, this is the only book, you can't do anything else. This is the only language, there's nothing else. There's nothing like that. We have reinterpretations, we are in a way a ship of pieces, right? So, are we going to modernize, and will that modernization expand again? God knows. Or will we decline? Yoga, who would have thought yoga would have been so popular out here? Right? Who would have thought? It's up to us. It's up to the next generation. And among the things I think we must give the next generation the freedom to do is the very freedom that every parent generation in India for the last thousands of years gave to the younger generation, which is keep alive the best of the old, but add in something new that you feel appropriate. We shouldn't tell them this is the way it has always been, don't you dare question it, don't you dare change anything. That has never been our way. Right? There's a lovely line which my sister and I, we'd written a book called Idols, in defense of idol worshipping. Why I'm such a proud idol worshipper. And there's a line we'd read which we put in that book, that traditions is not about the worship of ashes, it's about the preservation of fire. And if you want to preserve fire, you have to add in new wood. It's the way fire works. And we must give that freedom to the younger generation. Do not forget everything. Don't become an Instagram Western. Keep the best of the fire that we hand over to you. Add in your wood as well. You have the freedom to do it. It is the Indian way.
Dr. Amit Mujan.
Few decades have faced outrage from certain sections of society when they have written about these subjects. Is that something you give active consideration to in your process?
Have you heard any controversy around me ever?
Not you, but in general,
I-
this is a delicate
I've been writing for 15 years. Books have sold some 8 million copies, and that's a legal sales. You know, in India, pirated sales is 2x, 3x of it. My understanding of it is that Indians, I don't think, get upset by a different interpretation because we are used to it. Because in any way, as the Rig Veda says, Ekam Sat Vipravahuda Vadanti, truth is one, but the wise speak it as many. We are used to different interpretations of our stories. You know, many North Indians will think Lord Karthik is a bachelor. South Indians will believe that actually he is married and he has 2 wives. Right? You can go to a temple, Karthik temple in North, Karthik temple in the South. The rituals are different. Right? This is just one small example. Many are like this. I mean, Lakshman Rekha, most Indians who've learned Ramayana only from the television serial will believe it's there. If you read the original Valmiki Ramayana, you'll know it's not there. Right? Many examples like this. There's nothing wrong with different interpretations, as long as you do it with respect. I think Indians instinctively, they can gather whether this chap has written, even if it's a different interpretation, has he or she written it with respect? If that is there, then controversies don't happen. I know this sounds like a theoretical, diabetic kind of, everything is sugary, kind of answer. But I'm kind of a living example of this. And there are other stories like this as well. I mean, film, for example. Imagine if you went to a Hindi filmmaker and you told him, make a movie where the main hero breaks the base of a shivling and then carries it on his shoulder and then goes to a waterfall and then places it under that waterfall. The Indian filmmaker will tell you, I've gone mad. My house will get burnt. Yeah. When the hands of Rajamouli, who's not pretending, I know there are Barsati Hindus these days who pretend to be religious because, but he's genuinely a devout man. In his hands, this is one of the most iconic scenes in Indian cinema, right? In Bahubali.
Yeah.
Indians can sense, I think, they can sense if there is respect in your different interpretation. If that's there, there are no controversies. Will people disagree? Of course, yeah. I mean, and we are Indians, we debate, and there are people who've come and debated with me. What I love most, it's a polite debate, and I quote my interpretation of a past, they quote their interpretation, and we both, agree that both of us worship Lord Shiva and Lord Ram, and that's it. That's what makes me proud to be an Indian, actually.
Usha?
So this question is for both of you. My name is Usha. It's becoming more and more apparent that our history books need to be rewritten, and we were exposed to really limited view of history. I was wondering if either of you are involved in any projects where you're actively trying to change those history books, because I think it begins at the school level.
I agree with you. It needs. I've been invited to some of these councils, but I realize I did a job with the government as well. But perhaps there are better scholars who could do this. So I'm only there in some advisory roles at a few places, National Book Promotion Council, etc. But I'm not very closely involved. What I do try and do is through my own books. My wife and I, we are planning a range of children's books as well, which will hopefully release in the West as well, where we're going to try and bring out many of these different interpretations. Like among the things that I think needs to be corrected is in our history textbooks an overemphasis on Delhi, and ignoring the rest of India. And I'm not denying the importance of Delhi. And particularly last 1,000 years, it's like everything happened only between Khyber and Agra. And again, at times people give a communal ring to it. It's not a Hindu-Muslim thing, because actually Adil Shahis, who actually till almost the end of Akbar's reign, the Adil Shahis were a bigger power in India. Right? Bijapur was a far bigger city, was the biggest city in India as compared to Delhi or Agra. You won't get that impression but Adil Shahis were Muslims, but thoroughly ignored because they never conquered Delhi. So we need to balance and bring out the other parts of the subcontinent. We'll get a more complete sense of India as well. Because of this over focus on Delhi, many Indians, we think of ourselves as essentially a land of farmers who are being invaded, who are patriarchal. But actually, if you see South, East, West India, you will realize we were the greatest seafarers of the ancient world. We were the greatest traders of the ancient world. We had strong matrilineal societies. We don't learn all this because we just focused on Delhi. That balance has to come in. We're going to try and bring that out through our books, but yes, ideally it should be in the textbooks. I'm only a storyteller. Makarand is a scholar. You should do something on this.
I tried. I was director of Indian Institute of Advanced Study, and then I found that they were writing counter histories, which is also counterproductive. So in my new book, it's actually on Gandhi and Savarkar, but I talk about what's called Itihas Mimamsa. So we need not corrective histories of what really happened, but a deep reflection on the meanings of the past, meanings in plural. And I think this book is one of them. Now, I've seen many hands, but I only have time for 2 or 3. So what I'm going to do is this gentleman in the front, and the last word I'm going to give to Dr. Mattu, who will finish the session. I saw one hand there. So 1, 2.
That's it.
That's it. And Mr. Bansal says that's it, but he can't overrule Dr. Mattu. So Dr. Mattu will have the last word. He's the end.
My name is Mahesh Kotecha. I envy you with the multiple careers you had and the prolific nature of your writings. I've written one book and I'm struggling to decide whether I should do the next one. The first one has not been as great a success as yours. So, I wonder if you could talk about how you plan out, maybe back to some of the questions you were asked before as to how you think through the next book and the next book and the next book.
No, but he said he doesn't, so please talk to him outside. Thank you. That one there. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Vivek Bhattacharya, and firstly I would congratulate for the Chola Tigers and the Age of Bharat. I'm really excited for that releasing. I'm an aspiring filmmaker, and my question is, have you ever thought of producing or writing the books and converting into the films?
Okay. I need a mic.
Yeah. That's the last. You also asked, so he'll answer both.
I'll answer all the
and
questions
then
together.
Dr. Mattu the last one.
Right,
Just ask.
That's fine, that's my question here.
Yeah, please.
So, I'm a big fan of your books, right?
Use the mic, you have the mic.
Okay, so when I read the book of Ram, right, from my childhood, always what I listened from stories is Sita followed Ram always, right? When I saw your title, I was like shocked. Sita, warrior of Mithila. And when I read the book, I'm like shocked, and I gave the book to all my cousins, like, read this. This is the book you have to read. Like, when you're writing this, you know you are going against like what we listen from the childhood, right? Like, what went in your head, like how you want to do this?
I got the question. Okay, so I'll just answer all 3 quickly. Sir, my thoughts form just out of reading. I read 5-6 books per month on average. I've been reading at that pace for decades. So thoughts, philosophies keep forming in my mind, and stories are a wrapper to convey those philosophies. The stories themselves are the blessings of Lord Shiva. That I don't try and control. But for me, if there's no philosophy that I want to convey, then the story is pointless. Then the story doesn't go in my mind. Thank you for the compliments on the book and Age of Bharat. Those who don't know, Amitabh Bachchan ji, Nodi Nabood and I, we've co-founded a gaming. How many gamers here? Yeah. And those who aren't gaming, trust me, your kids are all gaming. And most of the kids are on games. There's a proper AAA video game that we have. We've started work on. It's a bigger budget than a Hollywood movie. It will come out hopefully in 2 years. We've started work on it. Those who want to see the trailer, you can go Age of Bharat. Just Google Age of Bharat on YouTube. It'll come out 2027, hopefully. Proper AAA like Assassin's Creed level. No AAA video game has ever been made on an Indian subject till now. This will be coming out soon. On a movie, yes, my wife and I, we are working on a movie on one of my books. There's also a movie based on Lord Krishna that will be coming out next year. We finished shooting. We're in post-production right now. I'm a workaholic, as you know. We're in post-production right now. It's on the love stories of Lord Krishna. It's the love story of love stories. You know, who better to learn love from than Lord Krishna? Okay, and it'll be from his childhood till the day he leaves his mortal body. Okay, and his love through all of it. And even if I say so myself, really love this script. Last, very quickly, sorry, we'll just answer. Sita, warrior of Mithila, that seeing her as a warrior, I would love to take credit for it because it makes me sound so cool. But there is a version of the Ramayana called the Adbhut Ramayana, which is credited to Valmiki ji. Valmiki ji had written 3 Ramayans. Okay. Valmiki Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, and Adbhut Ramayana. I've read all 3. In the Adbhut Ramayana, Goddess Sita is a warrior. There are 2 Ravans. The more powerful Ravan is the elder Ravan. Okay. And that Ravan is killed by Sita Ma. Okay. So there's a lovely line in that, Yada Yada Dharmasya. Already knows this, everyone knows this Mahabharata line. There's a version of that line in the Adbhut Ramayana. Yada Yada Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Suvrata, not Bharata, Suvrata Abhyutthanam Adharmasya Tada Prakruti Sambhava. That remember, O keeper of righteous vows, whenever adharma rises or dharma is in decline, the sacred feminine will incarnate. Wow. She will protect us, she will defend dharma. We don't need to become westernized to respect women. It's our ancient culture. We should remember that.
Great.